comes a truck which belongs to I think Tibetan traders, which brings goods from Tibetan side.
One of the remotest areas of the Himalayas, a young Lama escaped from Chinese-controlled Tibet in January 2000. This monk was no ordinary refugee, for he claims the title of Karmapa, the third highest ranking leader of Tibetan Buddhism. For more than a year, our reporting team retraced his 1,000-mile trail across the barren Mustang Plateau and over the Annapurna Range and into India. This is the story of his journey into exile. Dharamsala, the Dalai Lama's monastery, sits serenely in the mountains of northern India. On January 5, 2000, the calm of this sacred place is disrupted. The Karmapa comes unexpectedly and unannounced. He is here to find refuge with the Dalai Lama. He has escaped to freedom from Tibet. Beijing is stunned by the news. Ugyen Trinley is loyal to China. He is a living Buddha, a patriotic Lama. But now he has gone over to the Dalai Lama.
Can you say something?
The peaks of the Himalayas are the abode of the gods and the bodhisattvas. Tibet is a land of miracles where, according to legends, high lamas possess the amazing powers of becoming invisible and flying with the clouds. How else could Ugyen Trinley Dorje have succeeded in crossing these vast mountains in the deep of winter, or slip past Chinese checkpoints while chased by soldiers on his 900-mile trek?
Of course, he maybe traveled on the mountains from the snow, like Himalaya mountains, with lots of snow. But he's different than a human being. So I think while he's walking from the Himalayas, though there are many Chinese army on the Himalayas, because of his religious practice and because he's different, higher than a human being, I think they didn't notice it.
While the world's media accepted this miraculous account, other Tibetan exile officials told us of their doubts about the escape story.
Yes, there are. Inside Tibet there are many checkposts. But he could not actually escape. I don't know why the Chinese could not have stopped him. This is a question to Chinese administration in Tibet. Why he was allowed to go.
Then there's the problem of distance. 900 miles in 8 days. That's an average of 110 miles a day. A senior monk in Dharamsala admitted the Karmapa actually took a different route.
To come very fast from Nepal, what should people do? How can they come? Very fast.
It's a secret, I think.
Secret?
Yes. Because there comes no secret, it's very dangerous. It's that now. But the Chinese, many things he's dangerous, then he's come very secret.
Gyaltsen Lama, better known as the Tall Manangi, guided the Tibetan youth through Nepal. At that time at Surfu Monastery, did the Ugyen Trinley Dorje give you any suggestion that he was unhappy in China?
No.
You think he was happy then? He was okay in China? Okay. So religious persecution by the Chinese was not a factor. Ugyen Trinley was selected by Tai Situpa, leader of a rebel faction in the Kajupa, or the Black Hat school of Tibetan Buddhism. Tai Situ convinced both the Dalai Lama and the Chinese government to support his young candidate in Tibet. What can't be ignored here is the controversy over this appointment. The Kajupa's second most senior Lama, the Karmapa, was against Ugyen Trinley's nomination. Instead, he supports Trinley Thaya Dorje, who lives in France and India. The Karmapa strongly opposes the Dalai Lama having any say in this decision because the Kagyu have always picked their own leaders. The two schools, the Yellow Hats and the Black Hats, have been bitter rivals for many centuries. But Ugyen Trinley was the rising star of Tibetan Buddhism, since he is the only Tibetan leader approved by both the Chinese and the exile government. Whoever controls this young Lama controls the destiny of Tibet. Therefore, even Ugyen Trinley's faction had reasons to distrust the Dalai Lama.
You knew at the time he was going to go to Dharamsala. You knew that at the time. They told you, we're going to Dharamsala.
No,
They didn't say anything.
just India.
Yeah, that's all.
If his original aim was not to join the Dalai Lama, then where was Ugyen Trinley planning to go, and why?
My guess is in Lhasa. Lhasa is many kilometers. About high federal line.
The only way to find the answers was to retrace the Karmapa's path. This took a year-long search by our reporting team, which included a Nepali environmental writer, a Japanese-American journalist, a Hong Kong-based radio correspondent, and our pony guide, Lobsang Gurung. We discovered a far different story than the one reported by the media. We learned that Ugyen Trinley Dorje's journey was not an escape to freedom. His real intention was to gain possession of the mystical Black Crown in Sikkim and bring it back to Tibet as the undisputed Karmapa. When his secret plan failed, he went to the Dalai Lama because he had nowhere else to turn. Prakash Kanal picked up the Karmapa's trail in the walled town of Lo Mantang, home of the traditional king of Mustang. Although inside the boundaries of Nepal, the people of this arid, windswept plateau are Tibetan Buddhists and keep strong ties with Tibet. Few outsiders have been allowed to visit this restricted area, even fewer meet the king, and none so far have ever been permitted to go to the border with Tibet. It was a great honor then to have an audience with the king and crown prince of Mustang.
2000 January 1st
That night they walked to Lo Mantan and stayed in the house of a local lama named Tulku Bista. A lot of smugglers from Manang were seen around here. They posed as businessmen and brought lots of money and a satellite phone too. Now we know they were here to guide the Karmapa. The Manangi smugglers came 3 times.
The good news is that Prakash gets the go-ahead for the border. The guides point out some local homes that are built into caves. After the Karmapa crossed the border, a gang of people smugglers took him to a cave owned by the king's estranged nephew, Subarna. Subarna's brother had a large role in organizing the illegal border crossing.
Yes, he came in a vehicle to the Nechung customs post.
I am standing at number 22 border marker between Tibet and Mustang. Behind me is the Chinese border post, a large military base outside the Tibetan town of Kagyu.
The border guards inside the base are watching Prakash's every move. Nothing passes on this road without being spotted. Trucks owned by Tibetan merchants haul rice, canned food, lanterns, pots and pans, every necessity of life from the Chinese side. The Karmapa was supposed to be smuggled through aboard one of these trucks and then sent by helicopter to the Nepali capital of Kathmandu. But something went wrong with the plan. The Chinese border guards at the Kagyu checkpoint were stunned to see 2 land cruisers rush past in the darkness. 4 miles into Nepal, the road splits at the customs post, but the driver takes the wrong turn right into a stone wall. Using a radio phone, the Karmapas group of 5 monks contact the smugglers, who arrive and take them to safety in the darkness. What happens next astonished the local people. On the next morning, the Chinese police came back. The doors of the Toyota had been left unlocked, and the keys were still in the ignition. The Chinese drove the Karmapa's Land Cruiser a short distance into Tibet, and then they demolished the vehicle as if trying to destroy evidence. What happened to the second Land Cruiser? It seems to have vanished into thin air. This second car belongs to one of the richest Tibetan merchants in Lhasa, who happens to be the world's biggest dealer in pashmina wool. He and his Toyota resurfaced in Lhasa 10 days later. According to the press in India, this merchant is a secret agent of China's Public Security Bureau. The Land Cruiser was a gift from officials in the Tibetan Autonomous Region, who eagerly supported his plans to return the Black Crown to Tibet. Ugyen Trinley Dorje was, and still is, the darling of the regional government. He was pampered like a prince by the Tibetans and the Chinese. At the age of 4, this son of poor fur trappers was thrust into the limelight when a powerful Kajupa monk named Tai Situpa chose him as a successor to the 16th Karmapa. His enthronement in Surfu Monastery outside Lhasa was nationally televised. It was a powerful symbol of the unity of Tibet with the People's Republic of China. The decision to leave wasn't made on the spur of the moment. It was planned well in advance. As early as September, 4 months before his departure, Ugyen Trinley's attendant sought permission for a retreat in these meditation chambers above the monastery. That was a good way to explain his absence from Tibet. Ugyen Trinley left Surfu Monastery on Christmas, and not on the 28th as claimed, because by the 27th, the police were already searching for him in Lhasa. They drove away on the brand new road that was built by a wealthy supporter, Chen Luan, who was one of Taiwan's top politicians. The road led to the Qinghai-Tibet Highway. Somewhere along the way, he linked up with another Land Cruiser owned by the Tibetan merchant. The merchant's security clearance got them past military bases and police checkpoints. Then they took the Trans-Tibet Highway that leads to sacred Mount Kailas. According to officers at this Royal Nepal Army base, Ugyen Trinley's border crossing attempt was spotted by both the Chinese and Indian armies. A Toyota Land Cruiser with VIP license plates is worth its weight in gold in Tibet, and Ugyen Trinley wanted to park it in a safe place. So his men and Mustang rented 2 Russian-built Mi-16 helicopters inside Nepal to airlift the vehicle deeper into Nepal's Dopal region. The Russian helicopters came too close to the border and were detected by radar on the Chinese side. The big Chinese army base at Parang put the border guards on alert. The Indian security forces picked up the Chinese alert and figured that Ugyen Trinley was attempting a border crossing. India sent hundreds of armed policemen to the Tinkar Pass on the Nepal border to intercept him. With 2 Asian superpowers now on alert, Ugyen Trinley's secret border crossing was blown. There was only one course left, a mad dash in the Mustang. At 1 in the afternoon, December 29th, a Kathmandu monk named Gyaltsen Lama received an urgent phone call. He had visited Surfu 2 years earlier to pledge his support for this Karmapa. Now was his time to come through. Tell us what he said on the phone. What did he say?
Already come over here. You have we don't know where he would go.
The lanky 6-foot-tall monk, better known as the Tall Manangi, was the right man for the job. He drove to Pokhara and then took a plane to Jomsom in Lower Mustang. He hired horses from pony guide Kancha Gurung, and they rode up the Kali Gandaki River far into the night. On the next morning at 5, they rendezvoused with Ugyen Trinley, his monks from Surfu, and Chawang Lama, a brother of Subarnabista, the main escape organizer in Mustang. They rode through snowfall. Ugyen Trinley didn't realize that he was passing through a land that was once the base for Operation Shadow Circus, the CIA's secret war in Tibet. After Gami, they took the steep path over Nyala Pass, through Shamboche, and then Samar at nightfall. It was 9 at night when they reached the most dangerous part of the trail. The locals say a lot of horses and porters have fallen to their deaths here. With flashlights in hand, the porters led the horses across the pass one at a time. In the next village, Chaile, lodgekeeper Gyanuma Gurung was preparing a meal for her special guests.
After the meal, the pony god Kancha Gurung became angry at the tall monk from Manang. They were arguing outside.
I'm still angry at that Manangi. I told them my horses weren't going any further. They were tired and freezing.
He calmed down and then they rode off.
They turned to the east. At 6 in the morning, freezing and hungry, they took a chance and knocked on the door of a total stranger.
I heard people knocking on the door saying, "Lamas, lamas, let us in." They were shivering, so I made a fire inside the room. I asked if there was a big lama with them, but they said no.
After drinking tea and eating noodles and biscuits, they left without blessing or even thanking their hosts.
You see, I wanted a blessing for my deceased husband and for the baby, but they wouldn't give us one. I can't die in peace now. Where was his compassion? How can that young lama call himself the Karmapa?
They got on their horses again and faced the biggest challenge yet.
We've reached the summit of Thorongla Pass, more than 5,400 meters altitude. That's 700 meters taller than the highest of the Alps. It's so cold up here in winter that few porters dare attempt the crossing, and those that do risk loss of a limb or death from frostbite.
I caught the Thorongla 15 times in my life, but this time, number one, no problem. No.
It's been enough to next trips to the North Pole. Can't we go to like the Congo or something like that?
They reached the summit at 10 in the morning and then proceeded downhill toward Manang. Ahead of them lay the 8,000-meter peaks of Annapurna and majestic Machu Picchu, Fishtail Peak. How did they cross this impassable natural barrier?
This is the helipad where the Karmapa was picked up by one of two helicopters owned by a company allegedly connected to the CIA.
The tall Manangi was flown to a resort north of Nepal's capital, Kathmandu. From there, he would organize the border crossing into India. But Ugyen Trinley was sent in a different direction, to Pokhara. Tibetan Karmapa was airlifted through Nepal in January aboard this helicopter and a Kuriel high-altitude helicopter used for air rescue missions in the Himalayas. According to the Pokhara Airport Security Office, Fishtail Air made 2 flights on that day. But when we checked with this office, we found that the flight records for that critical day were missing. The young Tibetan monk was spotted at this lakeside resort. It was here, at a lakeside restaurant in Pokhara, that the sister of the Karmapa had lunch 3 weeks before his escape. In early December, she was seen eating lunch here with a Tibetan professor from Germany and another monk.
I told him here and there. Then finally he told me that he is here with the sister of Karmapa. The nun, he said. And I told him at that time there are 2 Karmapas. And which one I asked, And he said, one in the Tibet.
Oh, I see.
And I saw it. Well, she looks very unique, very strange, very, not an ordinary person, I would say now. Shape of her head, and she is very serious.
What was his sister Nodrup doing inside Nepal 3 weeks before Ugyen Trinley's own arrival? Well, she was traveling with a party of 18 Tibetans, who then took airplanes all the way to the eastern border of Nepal. There in late December, she was set to join Tai Situpa, Ugyen Trinley's mentor, who had traveled to this town, Siliguri, on the border of Sikkim. From there they planned to go to Rumtek Monastery to claim the black crown of the Karmapa for the coronation of Ugyen Trinley. China has never given official recognition to the Indian takeover of Sikkim. And this is why nationalist politicians here support a Karmapa who has received the blessing of China. The very thought of an alliance between Sikkim and China is frightening to India, which has already fought 2 major wars with China in the Himalayas. And this is why India will not allow him to come to Rumtek Monastery. The plan was to fly Ugyen Trinley from Kathmandu to Dharan, and then smuggle him in a jeep into Sikkim. Then, flush with new wealth and with the mystic black crown, he would return to China as a national hero. But that didn't happen. Before Tai Situpa and the nun Nodrup could enter Sikkim, lamas from Tibet got into an argument with Tai Situ's monks over who was in charge of the crowning. A fight broke out and one monk was fatally stabbed. police arrived, Tai Situ had fled back to his Sharabling monastery, and Nodrup went into hiding. The Indian security forces now knew that Ugyen Trinley was on his way from Tibet. The Black Crown was now out of his reach. His journey to Rumtek was over. Instead, he was bound for the headquarters of his old foes, the Gelugpa order of the Dalai Lama. That night he stopped in Lumbini, the birthplace of the Buddha, but it was too dark to see anything. Aided by Tibetan smugglers shown here, he crossed into India with false UN refugee papers. His last stop was Dharamsala.
There is no need for His Holiness Dalai Lama to come and interfere with this matter, this Karmapa incarnate matter. This is purely should have been left with the Karma Kagyu thoughts of schools.
After his arrival in Pokhara, the Karmapas stayed at this hotel compound in the home of the manager, who is a high-ranking member of the Dalai Lama's government in exile. The hotel. Why did the Dalai Lama's Gelugpa order make such an effort to intercept Ugyen Trinley after he crossed Lorong Lao Pass? While back in Tibet, the Kajupa leader publicly supported the Beijing-backed Panchen Lama instead of the Dalai Lama's own candidate. This threatened the very existence of the exiled government and of an aging Dalai Lama who is outside of Tibet. Who is to decide on the reincarnation of powerful lamas? Should it be the Dalai Lama or the Beijing government? Or should the choice be left to each school of Tibetan Buddhism? Riding aboard the helicopter that had plucked him off a Himalayan mountain, Ugyen Trinley flew right past the meditation cave of Milarepa. Milarepa is the patron saint of Tibet, who lived more than 1,000 years ago.
Today, our lamas ride around in expensive cars in the big cities, and people pay money to receive religious titles. We have lost our way from the path of the Buddha, which we call the Dharma. This is why there are 2 Karmapas and 2 Panchen Lamas, and even the Nyingmapa is divided. The Dharma is broken.
No Dalai Lama before this one has ever decided who should lead the Kajupa school. Leadership decisions have always been left to each of the 4 schools of Tibetan Buddhism to decide on their own. Yet on the 3rd of June 1992, the Dalai Lama took the unprecedented step of endorsing a candidate to succeed the 16th Karmapa. His choice of Ugyen Trinley Dorje, he says, was based on a dream.
So I do not relying on just 1 or 2 tests. So I proceed my usual method regarding the choosing reincarnation. Then the indication is positive. So then I decided, okay, that's good. I got some kind of one dream, the location, the area where the present is the Karmapa is born. One valley is naturally is the stones and the lawns looks as a high altitude, and then facing is the south, and there's some stream, small, beautiful streams. And that is the main sort of the picture. There was someone there and told me, actually, without this form, there's someone, some source, telling to me, oh, this is the place where Karmapa is born.
That description, of course, could apply to nearly every valley in the Himalayas. S. Yongda, who heads an organization that protects the Buddhist heritage of Sikkim, says that the Dalai Lama's dream was the beginning of a campaign by the Gelugpa order to take over and eliminate their ancient rivals, the Kajupa school.
The Karma Kagyu thoughts of school is independent right from its inception, and no power, political power or pressurization or interference by other three major thoughts of schools of Tibetan had entered into this. It was left independent. His Holiness Dalai Lama does not have the lineage to transmit the empowerment and initiation blessings to Karma Kagyu followers as well as the Nyingmapa followers, because His Holiness Dalai Lama has received only the Gelugpa's thoughts of schools transmission, lineage and empowerment. So he is not the religious authority as far as the Karma Kagyu and Karma Kagyu, Nyingmapa as well as Sakyapa, from these three thoughts of school. Each one has got its own root master, and these root masters are well qualified and they have been initiated properly by the previous lineage holders.
Sharma Rinpoche, the second highest Lama of the Kajupas, says that the Dalai Lama tried to centralize all of the Tibetan Buddhist schools under his authority in the early years of exile.
Yeah, 16th Karmapa opposed to His Holiness Dalai Lama's policy of unification of 5 schools, 4 schools or 5 schools. One is born religion. The other 4 are Buddhist. So he tried to unify that. And then that time, 16th Karmapa, all the Nyingmapa religious leaders joined together and opposed. Since that, then this never happened so far. And at present, Nyingmapa, Sakyapa, they didn't offer this rights and identity to His Holiness Dalai Lama. They didn't agree yet to unify. So why we have to do it? So I opposed.
The death of the 16th Karmapa in 1981 removed the main obstacle to the Gelugpa plan to take over the other schools of Tibetan Buddhism. The first step in carrying out their plan was to split the young leadership of the Kajupa school. And the second step was to install a friendly Karmapa who would overturn the policies of his predecessors and accept the authority of the Gelugpa order. Sharma Rinpoche supports another candidate for Karmapa, one who is less known to the world. His name is Trinley Dorje, and he splits his time between India and France.
From my point of view, I guess it's more like those people who wants to have let's say power, I guess, just for this, hunger for power that they are doing this, I think.
What is your opinion about politics and religion? Do you think the two are separate things? They should be kept separate, or what do you think?
Well, actually, it should be separated. I think there are two different things. As for myself, for the practitioners and for them, I think it is better to mainly to put their life, on the Dharma. I think it is more important. I think so that they can have a very clear point of view, on everything. If it's mixed, then somehow You know, even for politics it's not pure, even for the Dharma is not pure. You know, for both sides it's not good, I think. Yes.
This soft-spoken student of the Dharma reminds us that power corrupts, and absolute power can corrupt absolutely. While pursuing the story of the two Karmapas, our reporting team discovered to our great surprise that there could also be two Ugyen Trinleys. One of them was a 14-year-old boy at the time of the escape, and the other is an imposter. A full-grown adult of at least 24 years of age when he was welcomed by the Dalai Lama. The mysterious 10-year difference in age came to light during a medical checkup at one of India's most reputable hospitals.
You said you are a medical?
I'm a medical reporter.
Medical reporter?
Yeah.
So, you have reported on the case of Karmapa, the age of Karmapa. Actually, you are the one who broke the story in Chandigarh. Can you please give us some briefing about how you did it? How do you find out the age?
Actually, there was some confusion about the age of Holiness Karmapa. Some of the lab technicians in this institute, PGI, they were not sure that he is just 14 years.
What examination they conducted on him? Is it X-ray?
Yeah, X-rays were there, some biochemical tests were there.
What, in your opinion, could be the reason for them not to talk? Do you think there is any pressure from the government or anything else like that?
Well, as I said, at that time Karmapa was a hot issue, and as I guess, I can't confirm, but as I guess, there could be some political pressure or some instructions from the government of India as the things were being handled by the Ministry of Home Affairs, as we learnt. So there could have been some directions to this institute that there should be no statements on this issue. I talked to the director of this institute. He officially confirmed all the reports.
What is the name of the doctor?
Dr. Ashkesh Sharma is Surendra Kumar Sharma. He is the director of PGI.
Dr. Surendra Kumar Sharma.
Yeah.
So you talked to him.
Yeah, I talked to him.
And he categorically confirmed your information that he is overage.
Yeah, he said that we cannot term him as a child. He has crossed that age that he can be termed as a child.
Did he give any particular age group that he belonged to? Any like 18, 20 or 21?
Well, I asked him whether he can be termed as 21. He said we cannot confirm that he is 21 or 27, but surely he has crossed that age out of 14.
The PGI medical findings indicate that this individual was born between 1973 and 1979. That's at least 3 years before the death of the 16th Karmapa. That automatically disqualifies him to claim the title, because a person cannot be reborn before he dies. If he's not Ugyen Trinley Dorje, then who is he? Perhaps an older relative from the same village? Taisitu Rinpoche would know, but he refused to talk to our reporter Prakash Kanel. The identity switch took place in 1997, when this 11-year-old went into a retreat for several months. He went in as a small boy of only 4 feet in height. Yet in a space of just a few months, a 6-foot-tall adult emerged, claiming to be the same Ugyen Trinley. There were some similarities in appearance, yes, but his nose wider and his chin more prominent, and he had the facial hair of a grown-up. All the personnel at Surfu Monastery were transferred during this retreat and replaced by new people. Adding to the mystery, the 2 lamas of Surfu, most familiar with the young Ugyen Trinley, died untimely deaths in the same year. Why did the switch take place? Sources from inside Surfu Monastery told us that the young Karmapa was suffering from frequent blackouts and had a learning disorder that prevented him from memorizing the sutras. In other words, he had to be kept away from public view. Where is the little boy now? Perhaps hiding with his sister Nodrip? Or maybe receiving therapy in a foreign psychiatric institution? That is, if he's still alive. The whereabouts of the real Ugyen Trinley Dorje is the deepest, darkest mystery that will haunt Surfu Monastery and the Tibetan exile government for years to come.